The G20 summit has concluded. India has achieved whatever it set out to do. The Russia-Ukraine war was predicted to cast a shadow on the summit, and yet India put out a very carefully worded Delhi declaration, so much so that now even the Russian president has called India's G20 a success. But Ukraine is not too happy. Why? To discuss this and a lot more, joining me now is Weir, a journalist and political commentator. He joins me from Moscow. Fred, thanks for joining us.
Thanks.
Now, we've spoken multiple times over the past year on the war. It was predicted to dominate the G20 or at least act as a roadblock. And here we have a consensus and a declaration. How do you view this?
Well, I think it certainly is a triumph of Indian diplomacy that they navigated that problem, because it is one of the most intense problems that vexes and divides the world today. It's also quite significant that the Ukraine portion of that final statement doesn't please anybody, but it doesn't really get anyone's backs up. I mean, inside the G20, clearly the balance in the statement was fine with Russia. And it was also fine with close allies of Ukraine, like the United States, Canada, Britain, who signed off on it. So that's quite a remarkable achievement.
Now, as you said, Fred, it is a diplomatic win for India. Even Russia has called the summit a success. Ukraine is not too happy with the wording used in the declaration. What was it hoping for? India has always maintained neutrality when it comes to the war.
Yes, well, they told you what they think it should have said, and it should have at least echoed the language of that Bali meeting, which condemned Russia for aggression. And that's also, in Kiev, I think they've been quite open about that they're dismayed. Because this forum, the G20, it's not the BRICS or the SCO or one of those groups that don't contain any Western countries. It's the G20. And several Western countries, strong supporters of Ukraine, were present. And the fact that it actually backed off previous language and didn't condemn Russia or speak about aggression, and all those countries, Canada, for instance, I'm just amazed as a Canadian, and I know the political mood in Canada, and I'm surprised that Justin.
Fred, that actually brings me to my next question, because you mentioned Canada. Now, the West has always supported Ukraine, as you mentioned, but just now, the Canadian Prime Minister spoke at G20 when asked if he had let down Ukraine, if he had let Ukraine down by signing the G20. He diplomatically said that the G20 is a global summit for global solution. That's a very telling statement.
Yes, it is. And he also said why it could have been much worse if we weren't there. So make of that what you will. But the thing is, and this is the really remarkable thing about this G20 summit, is that the global majority actually prevailed. And their priorities dominated the agenda and the final statement. That is not the way things used to be. It is a tectonic shift in our global system. That's right. What he said is right. The global voice prevailed, and the global voice has its priorities, and one of them isn't taking one side or the other over the war in Ukraine.
Absolutely, and that is actually what India has maintained, that this is not the era for war.
Right, exactly, and that's good. I mean, and I think we all have to pause and just remark on how new it is. We're really into a new world, and hopefully a much better world where the voice of the global majority does prevail. I think that's great myself, and it is. I think very much to the credit of Indian diplomacy that they pulled it off.
Let's talk about what some of the other global leaders have said. Erdogan, who has tried to play peacemaker in this war, said, and I'm quoting him, he said that we believe that any initiative that isolates Russia is bound to fail. Clearly, he's saying that there's no way, or rather there was no way to get Russia to sign on by calling it the aggressor.
Right. And there was no way, but Russia could have been isolated. Putin's non-presence there was a factor that could have led to that. People could have pushed on that door. And the thing is, they didn't. It is really good that that statement came across, and it does now represent the consensus of the 20 most powerful global economies. Unfortunately, it doesn't move us any forward in the task of ending this war, because the war is raging. It is, as that statement notes, doing terrible damage, not only to Ukraine, but to the world economy, to the financial system, to the energy markets are terribly distorted, food. I mean, there are just so many global problems that have been exacerbated terribly by this war.
Absolutely.
And we still do need some sort of a venue where people can reach for a solution, for some kind of negotiated diplomatic solution.
Fred, how do you view Zelensky's statement? Zelensky is happy with the strong wording in the text, but not happy with it completely, it seems.
Well, yeah, he's not happy with the fact that it doesn't condemn Russia, and I think also in Kiev there's probably a little bit of dismay, because that is a country which they have put all their bets on the West and their Western friends to save them. You can understand their position, but the fact that top Western leaders seem to have stepped aside and accepted wording that doesn't condemn Russia for the first time, I think, that must lead people in Kiev to feel let down badly.
Right. Fred, thank you so much for all those insights, and thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.